Hey everyone. So in this special primer video, Colin's back to talk to us again about strings, but this time in C++, and how they differ from strings in C, as well as some of our useful standard library functions that we can use to manipulate these strings. So peace.
Hi everybody, my name is Colin, and I'm going to be going over C++ strings today. This is going to be a quick refresher, tutorial, whatever you need it to be. And you haven't probably worked with C++ strings as much in computer science so far at Purdue, but this is hopefully going to be a good starting point for you to understand what differentiates what's the differences between a C++ string and a normal C string. If you're still a little confused, what is a C string? Kind of some of the functions that come along with a C string or a char array, what it actually is. Make sure to check out the other video about that. But this is going to be mostly focusing on C++ strings, some of the functionality it has, along with being able to convert a C++ string to a C string. So let's hop right into it and take a look at what is a C++ string. So a C++ string has its own definition of a way to represent a sequence of characters as an object of a class. So you got to remember, C++ is just like Java. If you remember back to 180, is a more object-oriented language. So is called using the std namespace with an std colon string. A character array is faster than a normal std string. So that's something to think about, is that a normal char array, something that's just normal in C, is a lot faster than a C++ string. But a C++ string has a lot more built-in functionality for it that you may want to use instead of that faster char array. So if you're looking for speed, stick with that C string, that C char array. But if you're looking for more functionality, more methods, a C++ string is definitely the way to go. And with computers being so fast nowadays, it's very hard to tell. But a character array do not offer, the rest of the sentence says, does not offer as much built-in functions to manipulate the strings. A string class defines a number of functionalities, which allows often needed manipulations to the string. So C++ just has a lot more built in. C++ also has not better manual, but it does have a really good manual on everything used in C++, and a lot of the information, along with some of the sample programs today, are all pulled from the C++.com website. This is just a really good resource if you're confused on anything, and if I say something that you're still confused on, of course, you got other outlets talking with TAs or going to Piazza, but this is honestly one of your first places you should always check if you're confused about something for C++. Okay, so let's move on. So let's look at some, this is just a real quick, we're going to be looking at what is a C++ string. I'll show a program in just a second, but there's a lot of ways when you first create a C++ string on different things you can use. And this, again, taken straight from the C++.com website, just talking about all the different arguments that you can put in to create it. So let's hop right over to the program, C++ examples, and our string constructor example. So here we have, again, with this being a C++ string, we have an IO string, IO stream, and we also include the normal string, just like in a normal C program. This time, though, we will be using the std string namespace, being able to create a string using the C++ method. And you can see here that it's very similar to how a normal C string is created, but instead of saying equals to, it is just thrown afterwards with a pair of parentheses, as it is an object. It is an object, but it's also it's its own thing. It's given to us by C++. So we see that for our string 0 here, we just set it CS252 string. We then also set an empty string, which is string 1. We see that string 2, we set it equal to string 0. So if you go back to the other tutorial or you remember back to C, you'll remember that you have to use functions to be able to copy things. The C++ string, you don't have to do that. It's already built into it. And again, going back to the slides here, there are a bunch of different things, arguments that you can put in when creating it to create a different type of string. So here we're just saying we want our string 2 to be the same as string 0. For string 3, we want it to be, again, string 0, but we only want, I believe it's 8 characters starting at the third character. So we go to the third one, and then we want the 8 characters afterwards. And if it hits a null terminated null character, it will obviously bring that null character with it, and then that's when it stopped, obviously. So string 4, again, we just set it to a new string, a Gustavo party of coding. For string 5, we have another Gustavo party of coding, this time with a 12 afterwards, saying that we only want the first 12 characters. So it should still, I believe it's the first 12 characters. Well, we'll run the program, and I may be a little different than that, so I'll make sure to correct myself. So for string 6a, we will take 10x. This is going to be looking for the ASCII values, I believe. And then S6b is 10 and 42. 42 is ASCII code for a star. And then for string 7, we're going to take string 0 beginning and string 0 dot beginning plus 7. So it's going to take the beginning of string 0 and then all the way up to the 7th character. And then, of course, we have our printing out for C++. Oh, my camera stopped working. Give me just a second. It's been doing it today for some reason. There we go. Okay, cool. Let's keep going. So let's go ahead and hop over into Putty and go ahead and start this. So I believe it's just string example. Yes, okay. So we see here when we print for our print statement, we print out string 1. And for string 2, it is the exact copy of our string 0. String 3, we wanted the first starting, so it's starting at character 8, we wanted the 3 characters afterwards. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then it will take 3 characters afterwards. So that's for string 3. Then for the next one, string 4 is a Gustavo party of coding. So, and then we will take the first 12 characters of this string, which I said that was going to be the last 12, but it's the first 12. So another Gust, and it doesn't take the rest of it. Then for S6A, we want 10x. So we want 10 characters of x. So I was a bit wrong about that, but I'm glad I got it corrected. And then for the next one, it will take the ASCII value for 42 and the first and make 10 copies of it. And then for string 7, we want the beginning all the way up to 7 characters afterwards. So there's a lot of different ways to create a C++ string compared to C string, where you kind of just, you set your 2 quotation marks around your string, or you set each character individually. For this, there's a lot of different ways to be able to set your characters. Okay, so let's move on. Look at our first functionality, which is copy. Which you already saw that you don't actually need the exact copy of things, but there is still a copy function. So for copy, it copies a substring of the current value of the string object into an array pointed to by s, so some pointer. This substring contains the length characters that start at the position. So we have our parameters, string 1, pointers to the array of characters, int, the number of characters to copy, and the int 2, the position of the first character to be copied. And it returns the number of characters copied to the array pointed to by S. So let's go ahead and just hop over into the example and use that to kind of explain more of what's going on here. So we have a normal C string, which is declared just normally, like normal C. Then we have std string test string. So str copy is used to copy a normal, so not normal, copy a C++ string into a C string without having to do the conversion between things. So we take str, which is this, we do dot copy, and it will then copy the contents into string 1, starting at, I believe, let me double check. The number of characters will be 6, starting at position 5, and then we will make sure to the length here is then printed out, and it will not throw in that null character for us. So we're going to put that null character in at that length, because remember, the length is always +1 because we actually start counting at 0. But when it outputs the information, it doesn't start counting at 0. It counts, one more. So, and then we print out the contents of our string 1. So let's go ahead and run this. This should be copy example. Go ahead and do that. So str1 contains string, and we only want 5 characters, so it only takes string, leaves out our dots here, and again, it null terminates it for us. Okay, let's hop into our next C++ string functionality that we can use, which is rfind. So it searches the string for the last occurrence of a sequence specified by its arguments. So for our parameters, we have our string, another string with the subject to search for. Our integer, the position of the last character in the string to be considered as the beginning of a match, and a key pointer for the array of characters, and int2, the length of the sequence of characters to match. So there's a lot of parameters there, so let's actually hop over into an example to just kind of understand what's going on here. So we have our string, the CS252TA is bald from CS252, and then we have our key, which is CS252. We're going to print out our string and then the key, and then we're going to do our rfind. We only have to put in our key here, which is CS252. The other parameters are all, not necessary, but they're things if you want to start at a certain position, start looking for only a certain number of sequence to match, stuff like that. And all of that, again, is in the C++ documentation. You can read up more if you need to use that specifically. But for the contents of this tutorial, just kind of getting you started to understand what's going on. So then we do our if statement, and then we will print, if we do find that key, we're going to then change it to the name Gustavo. So the Gustavo TA is bald from Gustavo. That is the goal that I'm trying to get out from here. So the goal is going to be to find the occurrences of CS252 and to replace it with Gustavo. So let's go ahead and run this program. So it should be rfind example. So we see that our original string is the CS252TA is bald, CS252, and the CS252TA is bald from Gustavo. So if you remember back to what I just said, I did say incorrectly on purpose there, that the Gustavo TA is bald from Gustavo. That isn't correct because rfind looks for the last occurrence of the key to match. So that's important to note there. So if you want to change multiple of it, you're going to need to go through it again with a while loop, for loop, whatever you need to, or use a different functionality to be able to change a bunch of things throughout the code. That should be better. There you go. You can see my face a bit better. So the final output string is only the CS252TA is bald from Gustavo. And that's the output that was expected because it looks for that last occurrence. Okay, let's hop over. We got 3 more examples for this quick summary of a C++ strings. So we got sub string, which returns a new constructed string object with its value initialized to a copy of the substring of this object. Parameters: the position of the first character to be copied as a substring, and the length, the number of characters to be included in the substring. So let's go ahead and hop over to the example. So we have our string here. We think in Gustavo, we live in code. So we think in Gustavo, we live in code. And we will be taking first a substring, which is 3, 5. Before I run the program, think of where this is going to start and where this is going to end, with it being 3 and 5. Then we're going to do a find for live, and this is going to get us a position. Size t is just basically an integer, but in C++ it is a good way to also just get a lot of things can be returned as an int or a size t. If you're a little more curious on what size t is here or confused what it is, just look it up again in the C++ documentation. But this is not. It's just think of it like a normal integer. And then finally our string 3, which is just str substring, again with the position, and it's going to be taking everything afterwards. So think about where that 3 and 5 are, and we're going to go ahead and run this program. Think live in code. So our string 2 here, and we have a space, string 3, and then onwards. So this right here, we found live in our code, in this string, right? And then it would find that position, and then we want the substring. So if you don't give the length of how long you want, it will continue all the way to the end. So we know that live in code is what it is. And then for 3 through 5, that got us the word think. So yes, I did. If you were paying attention, you could just see it right here. But why is it 3 through 5? So let's count really quick. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why would it not be all the way up to I there, you think? Because I'm not asking for the third through the 5th. We're looking for the 3rd position and then taking the length of the next 5 characters. That's important to note there. We're not looking for, we're not just taking a substring with the 2 beginning and ends. We're saying we want to start here and again get the length, which is 5 characters, or find the beginning position and just take the rest of the string. So that is important to note for the substring for a C++ string. Okay, let's go on. Should have really started with this. I did the same thing in my last for the C characters, not C characters, C strings. But let's get the size. So size, it returns the length of the string in terms of bytes. This is the number of actual bytes that conform the contents of the string, which is not necessarily equal to its storage capacity. So that means a C++ string could be much larger than what is actually stored in it. And there are no parameters for this function. So again, let's hop over, take a quick look. This is really simple. We have a test string, and then we do str.size, and it will print out the size of the string. Let's go ahead and run it. Size sample. And we see that it is a size 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You see that there's 11 different characters here, and it prints out 11 bytes because a character is 1 byte. Okay, last example that we're going to look at for C++ strings is C_string. This is one that you're going to be using quite often and is something that is quite important when converting between a C string and a C++ string. So sometimes you don't always want to make a copy to a normal, a normal C string. Sometimes you just want the contents of your C++ string in this instance to be a C string. And this is when this comes into play. So it returns a pointer to an array that contains a null terminated sequence of characters. Again, it null terminates it for you too, representing the current value of the string object. This array includes the same sequence of characters that makes up the value of the string object plus the additional terminating null character at the end. So even if this string has a null character in it, it will throw another one in at the end for you, just in case, which is also helpful and something to consider. So let's hop into an example to look at this. Okay, so you're going to want to have include C string. I believe that's what you're going to need to have this. So for this, CS252 is really good because of Gustavo. So we have a char star here with a new char, which is the length of the string plus 1. So we're going to get the length of the string plus 1 and set it as the size of our, where our destination string is going to be. Then we're going to do an str copy of said string into it. We're going to do an str copy, and we're going to copy the contents of str and convert it to a C string and put it into this. We're also going to do an str talk and delimit it by the spaces, and then going to print out all the different characters, given each, and then what's it called? I don't believe we use delete. I don't know why I have this here. Just delete it. And I'm going to go ahead and run this program. Example. So, CS252 is really good because of Gustavo, and it breaks apart it by the spaces. So this is kind of throwing a lot of stuff all together. And str talk is something that we used in, if you remember back, is something we used in the other tutorial. Is something in the normal C library, and in this example, we have to use the std namespace to be able to run these. But using str copy, we're able to copy the source string, which is a C++ string, into our normal C string, which is a char array, which is very interesting. We have an object. Our C++ string is an object. With a .c string, it will return a string for us, just like a normal C string, and we can then copy that over. So in this context, all this stuff down here is just showing examples from the previous tutorial. But right here is our very important stuff, and then we are able to convert our object string from C++ to the C string. If you're still a little confused on this, again, I would hop back to this site right here, the c++.com. There's some great tutorials and great a bit more explanation on how everything works. I guess the last thing to look at for that, there are no parameters for C_string. There's nothing you need to worry about. You just take your C++ string and do a .c string. But yes, so to kind of wrap things up, we looked at copy, finding, substrings, getting the size, and then being able to convert your C++ string back to a normal char array or your C string. Again, if you have questions, make sure to look it up, try to find some information. If you still have questions after that, post it on Piazza, go to help hours, talk to some TAs, and try to figure out and understand what's going on. I hope this was a good recap. Really good way to kind of introduce you to C++ strings and kind of get you started. Good framework for what you need to know for this class. So again, if you have any questions, make sure to post them on Piazza or go to help hours.